So we've been talking about introduction to UI UX tools we are going to use as a designer to craft out nice and good friendly application, which is Figma. We've talked about research, we've talked about user personas, we've talked about empathy, we've talked about user journey, we've talked about flowchart. These are the UX process of crafting out a project or a product. So, and this product we are looking at, we are using food app as a case study. So we talked about flowcharts, and today we talked about flowchart last week, and today we are going to talk about wireframing. So introduction to wireframing is today's class. So wireframing is basically um, a UX design process that you or we as a UI UX designer or product designer are going to carry out, because once you are done with your questionnaire, you've looked at your questionnaire, you've checked out the quantitative and qualitative analysis, you document your user personas, writing down their bio, using their image, and penning down their pain points and needs. You've created your empathy map for your user, what they think, feel, say, and do. You've moved to your user journey mapping, which you've pointed out the key functions or key thing they are going to do. And since we are using a food app as a case study, we said as a user, or the user journey for food app is searching, selecting, paying, and so which is like the key functions of the food app. Now we've looked at this user journey, we've checked on their pain points, their emotions, and we've looked at, oh, this pain point they are experiencing will give them opportunity for improvement. And then we move into the flow chart where we talked about the roadmap of this food app. How do you want your user to interact with this your food app? More like a roadmap, how they are going to navigate how they are going to navigate through the food app from finishing to starting. How do they come on board as a new user? How do they move around on the app? How do they come on board as an old user, and how do they move around on the app, then log out and all, including people that are buying or people that are not buying, including people that are going to update their profile or without updating their profile. So once you've done that, and we said flow chart, each flow process, each box, each symbol stands as a screen. So when most of us did our flow chart, they included some things that's more like the back end information, more like something that more like interaction that is supposed to happen, more like a two element interaction that is supposed to happen on a screen, but most people made it in form of symbol, which actually is not right. So, and if we looked at those flowcharts and then we push them into the design, you see that you yourself will just confirm that, oh, these things I made three symbols are not something that is to go outside one symbol, are supposed to be maybe three elements that a user is actually going to interact. So don't forget that although most people did not remember that part, but they did so well. So now the next thing we are going to talk about is the wireframe. Wireframe is like looking at your flow chart, bring each symbol and then replicate it into a screen. So a wireframe is a basic outline of a digital experience, more like an app or a website used to design at a structural level. So I'm going to put this like in a layman's language. So if somebody asks you what is a wireframe, so in a layman will tell you wireframe is the skeleton structure of a design, be it a web, tablet, or mobile view. It's just like the skeleton parts of a design. Just like the name, they look like they were created with wires, are mostly with some text. Yes. Now last week we talked about types of flow and we look at wire flow, and I said, don't worry, when we get into this class, you understand more like what is a wire flow. So wireframe is just like the skeleton part that you use wire, line, shape, and some text. You don't need image, You don't need some wireframe you add color, but you actually don't need image. So mostly what you will see is just the skeleton part of a UI design. So as time goes on, you're going to see how a wireframe looks like. It is commonly used to lay out contents and functionality on a page, which takes into account users' needs and users' journey. So this sentence alone has actually explained what I was saying before. It's more like a layout, a functionality of what is going to happen on a page. Remember, we worked on the user journey and we worked on the flow chart. Now, those things comes in when you have your user, when you've known their pain points and you want to carry out their goals. So you've understand this, you've those goals, now you're not implementing those goals into the digital design, and wireframe comes in place. Now, wireframe takes place after the initial stage of research, user persona development, user information architecture. Now, I know we did not talk more on informational architecture, but informational architecture, which is IA, is same thing as flow chart. But information architecture is just like, it doesn't need decision, it doesn't need this particular symbol must be there. It's just more like it doesn't need this particular symbol. For example, the input, the decision, the start and finish. It's just mostly like the rectangle from beginning to ending. It doesn't need decision. It's just like when somebody will tell you, now I'm going to explain the difference between an information architecture using the normal thing that we do. For example, for somebody that wants to travel from Port Harcourt to Abuja, so for information architecture, it's just like, I will pack my bag, I will go to GIG, I will pay for my tickets. Let's say my seat number is number 4. Once I sit on my 4, GIG will just take me from Port Harcourt down to Abuja, and when I get to my destination, I will book a boat down to my house. Now, this is what information architecture does. It doesn't tell you that you're going to pass through so states or this place or this place. No, it just tell you that it's just a safe trip without giving you any information, any deep information or deep details. But flowchart is just like, pack my bag, you book a boat. Maybe there is a traffic at Artillery. GIG is in Artillery in Port Harcourt. If you're in Port Harcourt, you know where GIG is. Okay, there's going to be like a little under the bridge in Artillery. Maybe just like a traffic of people coming from the left, coming from the right. If you know Artillery, you know how wide and so many wire roads it looks like. So you're going to go to GIG, you buy your ticket, you wait till the motor gets filled up, they'll confirm that you're the person that bought the ticket. They'll say, okay, where's your seat number? You sit down. If you carry excess luggage, they'll tell you, okay, you have to pay a token before they will patch your luggage into the box or bus or something. And then once you're done, they'll say a word of prayer. Then the driver will introduce, or they do call themselves captain. They will introduce themselves and tell you, stuff like that. And then you guys will start the journey as early as 7:30. And you leave Port Harcourt, you go through LLA, you go through Imo State, Omagwo, you go to Owerri. When you get to Owerri, you guys will stop, have a lunch. If there's any stuff like that, it's giving you where details. If there's hold up maybe in Onitsha, if there's hold up in Onitsha, you guys will follow through Owerri. Just stuff like that, giving you detail. That's how a flow chart look like. A flow chart to tell you this particular screen is going to be an input, so you have to be in this shape. Is there any decision that is going to take place? If yes, continue. If no, you have to go back and input the information. So that is more how a flow chart is. But information architecture doesn't need all this decision or input. It's just like an express information of what the charts look like. So just have it at the back of your mind what information architecture is or what user flow look like. So, but we'll continue for today's class. But you have any question, we'll take it at the end of the class. But before the high fidelity design and prototype phase, once designer have a solid understanding of user needs, behavior, and overall structure of the product or system, they begin to translate this insight into visual adaptation. Wireframes serve as a bridge between the user experience and the detailed design phase. Now, what this means is, if you understand, like now, most things I complain at when we are working on the qualitative and quantitative analysis, which is the under the user research, that I said most things that we as a user have been experiencing is um I work on my system 247 and I don't have that time to go to the market, come back, start cooking food. I want something that after this class, what I'm just going to do is maybe when you guys are taking an attendance, what I'm just going to do is just to place an order before we are done with the class. My food will be at my doorstep. Instead of when we are done with the class, I'll now have to, pick my bag, start going to the market, come back. And today is Saturday. You know how markets sometimes are always look like weekend, especially Saturday's evening. And then you might not even see people. For tomorrow is Sunday, you might not even see to buy cabbage if you want to eat, coleslaw or salad. You might not even buy cabbage, and even if you want to buy, it will be on the high side because they rush. So these are all this user experience. So, and me, what I want as one of my expectation or one of my needs is I want to order my food. If I want to eat 5 plates of coleslaw, no problem. I should be able to order it on the app. So that is what I want. So as a designer, if you understand your user needs and their behavior and overall structure of the product. Now, what they mean the structure of the product is like the flow. You don't want to create a flow chart that you're going to frustrate your users, because users are looking, it's just like I'm under the sun. I'm under the sun. I'm tired of standing under the sun. I'll look for a shade to rest my feet and also stay away from the sun and take a deep breath, relax. So it's just like your users are already frustrated. Maybe a similar app you're working with. You don't want to frustrate them again that same way. So all you have to do is to create something that are user friendly. So your flowchart does that. In fact, starting from your research, does that down to your flowchart. So your flowchart, then you start interpreting your flowchart into screens. Now, this can be drawn by hand or created digitally. So for wireframe, you can, as a designer, I would advise you to buy a big drawing book. You know those drawing books we use in secondary and primary school. So I would advise you to buy that drawing book, get an eraser and a pencil. This will help you as a designer to be creative. Please mute. So this will help you as a designer to be creative, where you sketch out some nice experience and user-friendly app. So it can be drawn by hand or digitally created, depending on how much detail is required. You get. During wireframe, designers create low fidelity, simplified sketches or digital layouts with that outline the basic structure, layout, and functionality of the product interface. Now, if you join the class from week 1, day 1, day 2, week 2, you see that we are now moving slowly into the UI part. You can see that we are not ending the UX part and now we are now moving into the UI part. You can see from what I'm explaining, you see that we are done with this phase. We move to this phase, we move to this phase, we are now moving on to the next phase. Now, this wireframe focuses on key elements such as the navigation, content replacement, interaction points, allowing designer to exploit different design solutions and iterate quickly based on feedback. Now, there was a time somebody asked me, the last class, somebody was asking me, oh man, is Wireflow same as prototype? And I said, yes, but not deep. And the person said, okay. Now, let me explain something about that. Now, Wireflow is, we talked about Wireflow and I didn't go deep into it. And I said, don't worry, when we are talking about wireframe, you will understand more of wireframe. You must understand more of that type of flow chart if you understood wireframe. Now, wireframe is just basically a screen to, like when we did our onboarding screen, when I said, okay, go and replicate this. Let me see if you guys can navigate your way through Figma. And most people try. Some did light theme and dark theme. So some did something. They try a lot. So those screens you are looking at now, if you look at the skeleton part of that screen, you can see that it talks about where your content will be, where will the image be, where will the button be, how will the button look like. Now we have those carousels, so those three dot icon to tell you how many pages do we have. You can see that those things is going to tell you where it's going to be. Where it's going to be. So that is what basically what wireframe does. Because we have when we get to that part, they'll tell that we have the low fee, the high fee, and the mid fee wireframe. Now this so wireframes serve as a blueprints for providing a foundation for further refinements and iteration before moving into prototype and development stage. So what this means is, as a designer, when you are done with your wireframing, which you've done the three types of wireframing, okay, you've done your skeleton design. That is when you now have to remember when we talk about wire flow type of flowcharts. So that's where you now have to do those prototyping, those connection between the element on screen 1 to screen 2, the element on screen 2 to screen 3, the element on screen 3 to screen 4. And then once you are done with that, you push it to the user to test. This same user, you ask them question, you push it to the user to test it. And this now required us to, some persons that were asking questions during our user research, and were asking, how were you able to navigate through this app? Did you encounter this? Did you encounter that? Was this how, when you want to check out, was the process difficult or not? If you remember, for people that use this kind of question during their research, you find out that this is where those kind of question comes in. Yet where you have to get feedback from this same user you interview, because these are the users that are going to use the product. Remember, when you are creating a product, you work based on your target audience. You don't just create a random product just like that. There are audience that are mostly going to use this app. For example, let's leave app. For example, let's look at all this Piggyverse. Now, let me talk about Piggyverse now. Let me just show you what another flow, talk about another product that is off from the app, food app. Now, let's look at Piggyverse. Now, Piggyverse targeted audience are people that don't know how to save money, how to save money, how to spend. They don't know. All they have to do is, when money comes, they just spend. At the end of the day, it's like, I don't need to buy this thing. Why am I even buying this? This is a waste of something. Now you can see that of their audience. Number two are people that want to invest in so many things. It happened on Piggyverse. You want to either save in naira or you want to save in dollar. All these things are targeted audience. Somebody like me, I'm this kind of person. I'm this kind of user or an audience that there are some things I don't need to buy, but if I buy them, at the end of the day, I don't need this thing. And it's always painful that I'm giving it out. Sometimes, because I don't want to give it out, I'll just keep it in my house and it will expire. If it's something that needs to expire, it will expire. If it's something that gets spoiled or something, and I will regret, I will start murmuring. I was like, I wish I not buy this now. I've saved the money, stuff like that. Then there are some persons, some users that they will have the money, they will save it in their local bank. Or I'm not going to call a bank name, but there are some banks that will eat 15 naira, 300 naira, 13 naira. Before you know, if you are saving 10,000 naira, before you go back to that money, you see that the money is now 9,000 something, which is like a heartbreak. And if you now pass into a stage that your local bank allows you to withdraw your money except the last 1,000 naira in your account, you can see that if you are withdrawing this money now, you will not withdraw up to 10,000 or even the 9,000 something. You have to withdraw either 8,500 or even 8,000 naira, making you losing 2,000 naira. You get? So that is the kind of thing that is kind of users that Piggyverse have. So I think I've just explained some stuff for you. So Piggyverse has to come up with this, and these are the pain points of users, and they came up with a goal where you have to even save, lock the money, and get interest. You can see that they solve your problem and even give you Jara on top. So that is what I mean. They've done the prototype and moved to the development stage. Now let's talk about the purpose of wireframe. What are the purpose of wireframe? Now, number one is establish the basic structure of a page. Now, you've done your flowcharts. How do you want your home page to look like? That's the first question you will ask yourself. Now I've done my food app. Most people, few persons made their food app not to have restaurants in it. It's like a one-man business. Now, some person will say, I don't want it to be one-man business. I want other people to come and sell their food on my app. Now, what is the purpose of wireframe? Number one, how do you want your home screen to look like? So that means it establishes the basic structure of your home screen. Wireframe is the perfect way for a designer to explore how the user will interact with the interface using adding visual consideration like color or image, and they serve as an outline to get the team on the same page early. Now, you are a designer in a team full of product manager, project manager, developers, data analysis, cyber security, or we know developers, you have back and front end, you have other persons in your team. And you as a designer, you've done your flowchart and you've presented to the team and they are okay with it. Now you've gone back to your flowchart, you've said on this home screen, what and what do I want it to look like? How do I want it to be? Where should be notification icon be? Is it going to be an icon, or is it going to be a text, or is it going to be a box, or is it going to be anything? Now, where do I want to add the search bar? Where do I want to, put maybe display of restaurants? How do I want it to look like? Now, where do I want to keep the add to cart, like the cart button, cart CTA? Maybe the account, where do you want it to be? This is like just the basic structure of that page you get, and then you present it to your team, and everybody will say, okay, why not move this particular element to this position, stuff like that. Now, the second one we have is highlight the intended functions of the product. Now, wireframe specific features will clearly communicate to your clients how they will function and what purpose they will serve. For example, the function of a button should be clear and it will show through the way it is drawn. When we did our onboarding screen, you saw how curvy and how bold my button look like. And even if you preview it on your phone, you will see how visible and how clear it is. So wireframe will just help you say, okay, I want this text. I don't want this text to be in size 12, which is actually going to look so tiny. For example, if I take this out from a large screen and it returned this way, you can see that this is tiny. And somebody like me, let's say I'm not using my glass, and when I will have to zoom before reading it, or I'll have to, put it this way. That's the kind of user I am. So if you say, okay, I don't want this text to be 12, I want it to be 16, so that way people that can see tiny text and people that cannot see tiny text, it will be visible enough for them. Now, the next one we have, it saves times and resources. So now in this particular one, now we talked about some resources, so I'm not going to go deep into it, but I'm just going to say it is something that is going to be easy for you to create, and it's going to be very, very cheap. In the aspect of you having a pencil and a paper, and then you just draw your wireframe on a drawing book instead of buying data, connecting to your laptop, turning on Jam or Figma, and then start bringing the frame, start drawing the line, start doing the this and this. If Kemi is actually going through the digital process and Musa is going through the pencil and paper format, Musa will be done. Musa will be done before Kemi will even finish 3 screens. If it's something that they are supposed to sketch 10 screens, Musa will be still even before Kemi will even finish. So you can see that it has saved time and resources. Let's say, for example, Kemi have to download Figma. If Kemi have to download Figma, you can see the time, and it has saved time a lot. It has even saved your MB safe. Now let's talk about the types of wireframe that we have. I know you've made research of wireframe, and then you are seeing different kinds of wireframe, and then you are confused and you're saying, what is this wireframe? What does it even look like? You get. So let's talk about the types of wireframe. Now, I know you've seen different types of wireframe. You've seen the one that look like something that they just draw, jaga jaga, you just tear. And we have the one that, you just see only shape, line, no color. And then you've seen some wireframe that you've seen with no image, you've seen text, you've seen icon, some you've seen no image, but you've seen color. Now let's talk about the types of wireframe. So we have the low, we have the mid, and we have the high fidelity wireframes. Now you'll be wondering what is mid. Mid fidelity is like middle. So what we call it is mid, but the name is middle fidelity. And then we have the low fidelity and we have the high fidelity. So looking at the name alone, you know that this is like low, medium, and high. It's just like somebody trying to unheat your fan. You want it in low. Maybe you actually need air, but you're feeling cold. You just put it in low. We have the medium and then we have the high. Now, before we look at each of them, let's talk about fidelity. What is fidelity? Now, fidelity is how closely a design matches the look and feel of the final product. So you hear, low feel, mid feel is fidelity. Yes, it is fidelity, and it is actually the match. It's a design match that matches the look and feel of a product. You get. Now let's talk about the types of fidelity. We'll start with the low fidelity wireframe. Now, the low fidelity wireframe has a low amount of complexity and less refined. It serves as the design starting point and is used when we want to get idea quickly. They tend to be fairly rough and created without any sense of scale, grid, pixel accuracy. It's just something you have to do. Oh yes. Oh, I now know where my search bar is going to be. Oh, I now know where top food is going to be, like top meal or maybe top category, or I now know where popular restaurants is going to look like. Instead of allowing the users to go and start going to the restaurant page and start looking or start filtering popular restaurants, why not popular restaurants? On the home page, you can see that, oh yeah, you've gotten an idea and you just have to, quickly sketch it down. That's how I normally say that if you are doing your low fidelity, instead of using the digital tool to do your low fidelity, why not use paper and pencil to do your wireframing? Now, this is what I normally do. With time, you guys will start experiencing it. I might be working on a project. Okay, let me say something that I normally do, like it is now my life. Maybe I'm working on a project and I might be on my phone, or I might be walking on the road, or maybe I'm coming back from work, or maybe I want to sleep, or maybe I'm feeling sleepy, and I will just get an idea of how a particular screen will look like. This is what I do. I have drawing book on this my table. I have pencil. You see pencil? Oh my God. I have one packet of pencil and I bought this big eraser. Once the idea comes quickly, this is what I do. I just grab my drawing book and just sketch it immediately. I found out that most of my sketch that I normally do are when I'm feeling sleepy, especially at night. And when I come the next day to look at this idea, it will just, it will just blend in. Unlike you want to sleep and the idea comes in, I beg, tomorrow I will do it. If you wake up, it's gone. It's gone. Like it's gone. Utilo is gone. But this is why I normally say that instead of using the digital tool for your low fidelity, why not use pencil and drawing book? So as a designer, what you're going to do, you're going to buy a drawing book. Not this, I don't know how much you're selling drawing book, but me, I did this A4 paper. I just combine the A4 paper and then add back. So it's more like plenty for me. I don't know how much you're selling drawing book. But if you can afford drawing book or if you can afford A4, just have those kind of stuff nearby for your low fidelity. So that's why I said low fidelity, just do your low fidelity on a piece of paper. It's better that way. Now, for low fidelity, the shortcut is whenever you hear me say low fee wireframe, just know it's low fidelity. It is called low fee. So if you check here, you see that it's called low fee for short. So it's just like the your name, low fee. Instead of saying low fidelity wireframe, which is actually long, you can just say low fee. When I say, oh, I want everybody to sketch a low fee diagram for a food homepage, just know that this is what I am saying. So by the time you start hearing me saying low fee, mid fee, and high fee, so just know that this is what I mean. Now, this is what a low fee design. This is done on a paper and then snap. You can see that most things are being done like jagara, 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 and all. So don't mind me, I'm using the word jagara, jagara, but you know that it is not aligned. You can see that this page, this line is not even straight and it's just there. You can see for the login now, it's just like this stands as a button that has this jagara, jagara. This has p.word, it's like a password input fee. This is like an email. So you looking at this particular screen, you know that is already a login even before looking at the write-up. You know it's a login. Then you have something like this for the homepage. You have something like for the search results. Maybe you type on let's say for example a food app. You're looking for amala and ewedu, and you click on amala and ewedu, and you click on search. You see that amala ewedu picture will come here. The next picture will come here. So when you click on this card, it will show you the details view, and then scroll. Or maybe when you click on, maybe there's going to be a write-up that say see review, and you click on review, then you're going to see the review done by this person, or maybe stuff like that. Or maybe you just you order and you want to drop a review and say, this amala ewedu is very sweet. I love all the orishi that they added. And you want to drop your review, and you just click on drop a review, or type a review, or write a review. You can now give it a star, and then type I so much love the orishi that they add, and it's nice. And then you click on save, and you save. So if you look at this diagram, you see that it doesn't align, because now I see this head, the head of this screen here, and look at this. So it's just something that you just quickly just wrote down. So you can see that it's like a starting point of your design, and it's used, or we want to get idea quickly. It's something that you just want to get idea quickly. So we are going to move to the next one. So if you look at this, and you look at this now, you can see that it's just like we are now moving to the next type. So I don't even need to explain it to you. So looking at the image of this and the image of this, automatically you will just understand that this is actually the mid-level, and everything is actually aligned. And this is when you now have to use your Figma to just do. Now in this part now, you see that everything is aligned. We actually use the grid. I know you guys remember what is grid. Can somebody unmute and tell me what is grid? If you attend week 1, day 2 class, you will know what is grid. So anybody that will answer this question, what is grid, you're getting 5 points on your assignment.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, grid is like the division, like the segmental division on the screen in the Figma app that helps you equally divide or have an equal division of your screen in the Figma app.
Okay. Another person. Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, another person.
Grid. Sorry,
good afternoon, ma.
Okay. Hello? Let's allow confidence to talk first.
Okay, grid is like the structuring, like the arrangement of the structures in the design you're doing.
Okay. Online.
Like the way you lay your work out.
Okay, so grid helps one to outline all your frames design accordingly, so it's not out of place and they are well aligned using the same dimensions. It just helps you, like, give you a kind of a, how will I put it now, a visual display of if your elements are well aligned on the frame.
Okay, everybody have said the way they understood grid. You guys are all right. Yeah, grid helps you to align your work, not to design, off point. Helps you for alignment of your work, either horizontal or vertical. Just help you for alignment of work. Okay, let's continue. If you look at this image, you will see that these are actually aligned properly, and the space between each of the card is also good. So when you're designing your your mid fidelity, this is where you now have to switch into using Figma, where you have to use the right frame you're going to use. For example, what I said that you should use for now is iPhone 13 mini, because it is more easy to get mock-up for that particular screen. Although Figma has helped us to bring out mock-up that has this dynamic island stuff recently, but most popular mock-up you will see is this pattern of iPhone. I don't know what they call it, but this kind of pattern of iPhone mock-up. So if you look at this image, so I don't need to read it, but let me just explain based on this image. Now, if you look at this image, you see that everything is actually aligned. The shape of the button, where the IP, how bold is the text going to look like. If you look at it, you see that everything is well aligned. They used grid. Now you can see that those information you've actually sketched, just that are not even aligned, that are not even, they are just there, that you've sketched. Now you will now move those information, but in this part, you're not going to use jagara again. Now in this part, this is where you now have to use a dummy text. Now when we did our onboarding screen, remember we did not use in the body text after the find a food, 247 delivery, 247 cost something. I can't even remember the title text I use again. Now if you check the body text, I used dummy text. I did not use the right information. I just used dummy text. Now, if you look at this mid fidelity, you see that they just use dummy text. They did not use image. Rather, they just use this icon that has 2 eyes and a mouth, no ear and nose, no hair on the head. So you can see that this is what they use, and everything is just aligned. So if you move from that first stage to this kind of stage, so this is what mid fidelity looks like. So it shows that the first one is, now if you look at this first one, it shows that as a user, this is what I'm going to do from here to on this screen to this. It's just like if you understand when I explain information architecture and flowcharts, if you bring that same idea, that same explanation here, it will tell you that a user from this screen we enter this screen, from this screen we enter this screen, from this screen we enter this screen, stuff like that. But for mid fidelity, this is when you now apply that wire flow that we talked about. On this particular screen, I should be able to, or a user should be able to click on one element that will take the person to screen 2. I click on screen 2 elements that will take me to screen 3. Click on an element in screen 3 that is going to take me to screen 4. This is when you now have to apply that wire flow that we talked about in types of flow charts, so you understand. Now the last one we have, and it's called mid-fi, MID dash FI, mid-fi, MID dash FI, mid-fi. Why this is called low-fi. So if you hear me saying low-fi, mid-fi, just know that I'm referring to low fidelity wireframe or mid fidelity wireframe. Now the next one we have is the high fidelity. Now automatically looking at, or even without looking at this, you will know that it is almost like the final stage of how this design is actually going to look like. High fidelity wireframe are detailed representation of the user interface, which is the UI, that closely resemble the final product in terms of visual appearance and functionality. This is like the 98% of how your design is going to look like. High fidelity wireframe include more visual elements such as colors. Now this is where you now have to put the colors that you want to use. It has the typography, it has the image, it has the interactive component to accurately convey the look and feel of the final look. Now this is where you now have to do. I know you guys have heard of interactive components. Yeah, we're going to talk about it. Get ready. We're going to talk about auto layout. We're going to talk about framing, but we're not going to talk about grouping, because grouping, I will show you guys the difference, and then you get to use your hand to choose which one you're going to work on. So the final design will show you how do you want your button. You want when your user touch, when their cursor move to the button, it should look like it has expanded. When their cursor go out, it look like it's closing. You get how you want the image to look like. You can choose to add image, or you don't want to add image, no wahala. Now for the typography, how do you want typography to look like? Do you want the header to be of this this big thick, or do you want it colored or white, or you want this or this and all? Then the body text, and that is where you now have to fill the body text with the right information instead of using dummy text. You get. And then you have the interactive component. When I click on the input field, how should it react? When I click on, when I click on the input field to type my information, how does it respond? When I do this, how does it respond? We're going to talk about that. We have like a particular topic about talking about interactive component. This is not like a theory, it's a practical strength. So then they also incorporate the finer details such as the iconography, button styles, input field, content hierarchy to provide more comprehensive understanding of the UI interface, of the user interface, which is the UI. Now, this is like showing how the icon, like, are you going to use outline icon, or you're going to use field icon? This is like a task I'm giving you guys. What is different between outline icon and field icon? Explain it for me explain it for me visually. Like, explain it for me visually. I think I'm going to jot this down, so it's going to be part of your assignment. Sorry, give me a second, let me jot it down. So it's going to show you, are you going to use outline icon, or you're going to use a feed icon? How do you want your button to look like? Do you want your button to look so curvy, or you want it to just be straight like that? Then the next one is the input feed. How do you want the input feed to look like? You get. So this they help consistency and alignment with the overall design vision, while allowing for further refinements and iteration before the final design. Now, you've done your low fee. Low fee is something that you're not giving the user to test, because it's something that you just sketch, and if you give them, they might be confused. They'll tell you what it is. Not everybody understands low fee. But low fee is something that you've done, and you're going to say, okay, from this screen to this screen. Like, let me go back to the first image. Now you've moved like this screen to this screen. You've just done something like this. This is something that you now have to come back to your team. This is where you now have to come back to your team, and then you said, team, this is what I've done so far. Let's look at it and see. Everybody give me your feedback, give me your opinion, and what do you think? And then you guys are done. Maybe there are corrections that you need to implement, and once you've done it, you're not going to implement it in the mid fidelity. So when you've done the mid fidelity, you will now do the wire flow. So when you've done the wire flow, you will now have to copy the prototype link. Remember, this is a wire flow. Like, this is like a connection between one element on screen 1 to screen 2. This is not the deep prototyping. This is just like the upper part of prototyping, which is the wire flow. And once you've done, you just copy the link, ask questions. Question, for example, like, when trying to log in, do you prefer logging with let me start up, because sign up, because it's a new user. When you are trying to sign up, do you prefer putting all your details manually, or you prefer using the Google authentication, something like that? but you're going to give them the option, and you're going to, tell them to choose. Most people tell you Google, most people tell you manually. There are users that prefer manually, there are users that prefer Google. And then they will tell you, when you are trying to search for a restaurant, was it difficult for you to trace the popular restaurants? You get the answer there. But this time around, you're going to put option for them to type, or option for them to put yes or no. Then the other one, you cannot say, when trying to check out, was it difficult for you to navigate through the app when you're trying to check out? So stuff like that. Now remember, this particular design is just a wire flow that you did, a connection between one element on screen one to the next screen. Remember, so you're not going deep. So you're just trying to do the soft, like the surface part of your prototyping to experience it, just to say like, okay, how it's going to look like when we build this app. So, but I want you to experience it. I want you to interact with it and see if there are things you as a user would like us to, implement, take or remove from the design. And then you use that your feedback form that using the Google form, you look at the feedback and then you implement it in the high design. So this is how a high fee design looks like. Now, if you look at the design, pattern is not looking so bright. So you can look at the design, you can see that this is actually a landing page. You have the header. You can see that this button here is blue color. We have this bold text here. We have this body text. Now we don't have image, but if you take a closely look at it, you see that my body text are gray color, while my title text are black. My button is blue, and there's no image. This is how I want the footer to look like. Then if I come to this particular, this one is actually clear. This is how a high fee design look like. It is like that. I said it is 98% of how the final design will look like. So this is how it look like. You can actually use FigJam to create your wireframe, but I would advise you use Figma to create your wireframe. It's more easier and it saves time. Instead of doing your wireframe on FigJam, copy to Figma, start replicating, it takes time. So that's why I said use Figma to do your wireframe. Now this is high fidelity. Now if you look at this, you see that all the text, how it's going to look like, everything is okay. The icon. So what was used here is a particular type of icon that I gave you guys as a task. So if you look at this design, you see that the only thing that is not on this design is just the images. So what we use here is just shoe or boot image icons. So if you check, you see that there's no images of the shoes. They just use icon to replicate, to put there, to fill it up. Now this is what a high fidelity or high fee design high fee wireframe look like. This is for mid, and this is for low. So this is how a low fee look like, this is how mid fee look like, and this is how high fee look like. So I have to use this and this. Now what are the benefits of wireframing? Now let's look at the benefits of wireframing. Wireframing informs the element to involve or to include in your design. Now the benefit of this wireframing is that you don't want to use random elements. You don't just want to use, because of this person using covering button on this, then the next screen you now have to use a plain button. It doesn't make sense. So it's just like something that you said, okay, this are the elements I'm going to use in my design, all through my design. If I want my button to be very curvy, this is what a curvy button look like. So when I say curvy, just know that this is what a curvy button look like. But for normal button, this is how a normal button. Now you can see this cat button. So this is what it look like. I'm talking about the shape, not the feel or not. I'm just talking about the shape. Now this is what a curvy button look like, and this is what a plain button look like. So if you hear me say curvy button or plain button, that's what it look like. So wireframe catches problem early. There are some times now, if you watch your flowchart for people that did some interaction that is supposed to just happen in one screen, but in their flowchart they expand it in different shapes. It's actually a problem, because by the time you start doing your wireframe, you say, this thing is something that to occur in one screen. Oh, I made a mistake. I actually went and expand it in shapes or in symbol, not knowing that these are something that is just going to happen in one screen. And then that is where you now have to go back and adjust your flow chart, and then you catch that problem early and then you add it. Or maybe something that you feel the flow or the roadmap of the particular section is not clear. It's actually a problem that you've catch early. Now you get to discuss, you get your stakeholders to focus on the structure, and then the magic is simplicity. Now, wireframe will help you. Now, remember Lofi, especially Lofi will help you, okay, I love this structure. I love where you place the button. Let me use OP and CUDA for people that use OP and CUDA. Now, the structure of CUDA, their button is always at the top right. But OP, their button is either at the bottom of the screen or of the screen. Now, you can see that the structure of how OP look like and the structure of how CUDA look like. Their UI is fine, it's clean, but the structure of where the structure of positioning their button, you can see that it is different. Now, wireframe will allow you save time and effort. I don't even need to go deep into this one because you've seen it. You don't want to, start going back and front, start doing something that will make you to come back and start repeating yourself. So wireframe will help you save time and effort, especially the low fidelity parts. So the next one is wireframe allow you to, think of idea very quickly when you want to design and need options. Just like, especially low fidelity, me using myself that I may be working on a project and maybe I want to sleep at night, and this sharp idea that will just come and you just jump quickly and then you sketch it and then you go back to bed. When by the time you come in the morning and you looked at it and you say, okay, now that idea that time came, and when you will now start working on that design, you will now have another idea. So you cannot, look at it and see if you need options or stuff like that. So that are the benefits of wireframe. Now, in summary, wireframe focus on the visual layout and interactive structure of a user interface, and acting as a blueprint that map out where elements should be placed and how users will interact with them. They are an essential part of the UX process. It is actually a part of the UX process. It helps designers plan the structure, flow, functionalities of a product before moving into the visual design. By outlining key components and user interaction, wireframes support the creation of a clear, consistent, and user-centered digital experience. Do we have any question to ask concerning wireframe? Do we have any question to ask concerning wireframe? Is there something that is not clear that you want me to clear on wireframing?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, ma'am, for the plan. I understood the parts moving from the low, the mid fee, and getting to the high fee, but that high fee part, I really don't understand. I know it's like you said it's 98% to the finished work. But the what you showed us, the example, I really didn't get it. I was even trying to zoom in on my phone to the image so I really don't understand, like, Sham, I don't know, probably tomorrow the practical, I don't know, because the process on how to get there and everything. Hmm.
Okay, I know you've heard where people are saying that IP is the final stage of your design. I know even when I started, that was what I was told until I started making research. I'm trying to paste this image so that you will see it. So when I started as a designer, I started by the way they told me. They said there's sketch, like type of wireframe. There's sketch, there's low fee, there's mid fee, and there's high fee. And I'm trying to see if I can copy the image for you. And they said, sorry, just give me a second. Let me see if I can copy the image. Okay. Okay, don't worry, I will share this thing with you guys. I will share the slide with you guys. So when I started as of 2021, I was told that there are 4 types of wireframing. There is sketch, which is done on a piece of paper. There is low fidelity, which consists of just shape and line. And there is mid fidelity, which is like the normal mid fidelity I just showed you. And there is high fidelity, which is the 100% design, 100% of your design, including the image, color, blah, 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 and everything. That was what I was told. But as time goes on, I start making research, start, going deep. And I found out that there are just 3 type of wireframing, and people mistake sketch to low fidelity, and the low fidelity is not, because low fidelity is just line and shape. So let me see if I can show you guys with a picture of what I mean as low fidelity. Like the normal low fidelity I was told it look like. Okay, please. Okay, so this one self has right up. So I'm looking for the one that doesn't have right up. Now, this was what I was told. The design. This is like low fidelity, mid fidelity, and high fidelity. High fidelity self they use the normal image, and later they said no, this is sketch, this is low fidelity, mid fidelity. It's very confusing, trust me. But I started going deep because that was the mentality I had when I started. And when I started teaching, and I was like, wait, though, this thing that I'm even boasting about, let me go and make research about it. I made research about some Nigerian institutes, some abroad institutes. I have one course on Udemy like that, and I also registered for this Coursera, and I noticed that a lot of designers mistake this as, some call it mid fidelity, some call it low fidelity. Now, if you look at this, let's say somebody just joined the class now, and let's say somebody that's a newbie that wants to, person just tell the person this. The person might not understand that this thick line here is actually like a boat test, and this tiny one is like a body text. The person will start asking you, now what if you have someone, this thing I'm saying now, what if you have someone in your team that says this big line and this small line means what? and then you start explaining to the person, and then another person barging and tell you this big line and this small line means what. You start explaining, another person barging, and you get tired. Okay, so from the research I made and everything I made, I found out that paper sketch low fidelity, you can do your low fidelity the same way we have the display here. You can do this kind of thing on Figma, you get. But what I normally do to save time, what I normally tell person, or what I normally save time, is my low fidelity are always drawn on a piece of paper. That's what I do. It saves a lot of time. I just use Kemi and Musa, for example. Imagine you tell Kemi, I told two of them, okay, two of you are going to replicate this. For Kemi, you're going to use Figma. Musa, you're going to use pencil. And before Kemi will even open laptop, even open, maybe if she's using a browser, before she will even open browser, you see that Musa is even done, and Musa is going to even add more idea to it. And but she's still trying to arrange her Figma, trying to choose the right frame and all. She's done. So that's why I normally tell people that I am low fidelity, not what I tell people, but what I've seen and what I've heard and what I've read. I normally tell people that low fidelity are actually drawn, like this is what a low fidelity look like. This is what it look like, and it is drawn on a piece of paper. Then for the mid fidelity, this is how it look like. At least it's those things that are probably aligned or arranged very well are now arranged very, very well. Like from what I've read, from what I've seen, from the classes I've even joined on wireframing, this is what it looks like. At least your design are now looking like this is the digital representation of how your design will look like. Then for the high fidelity, I know we all have the mentality that the high fidelity is the final look and feel of our UI. Now, I want to ask a question. If it is the final look and feel of our UI, and remember we are going to carry out usability testing. Now, if we carry out usability testing, we push it in the market, you test, you come back, you duplicate, those things back. Are you saying that it is what you're going to give developer? So the high fidelity, it is not the 100% of your UI. It is, if you look at it, you see that it is almost, but it is not 100%, it is 98%. So you don't say this is the 100% of the high fidelity. No, high fidelity, it is not 100. That's why I say 98%, just 2%, which is like either you're replacing you already add all the images for remaining color, or you add all the colors for remaining images. But just have it at the back of your mind that it is actually the 98% of how your UI design is going to look like. And then once you push to the user, they test it, you duplicate, you now add everything. Now remember, it's like this now. You've pushed it for the user, they've tested, they'll tell you, okay, why not bring all this narrow choices, why not bring it and display here, and then push all your image to start from here to here. Maybe you what your user said, and then you duplicate it, you now replicate all the images and all. Done the correct prototype, every 10 prototype, and then you now tell the developers, you now put it like ready for dev, and then draw the attention of developers, and then your developer will start working on it. So that I said, high fidelity, it is not 100%, it is 98% of your look and feel of your product. So not 100%. I know we all have that mentality. I do have it, yes, before. But after from what I've read and what I've seen and what I've learned, high fidelity, it is 98% of your final design. Not the final design, but it is the 98% of your final design. So once users have gone through your product and they are satisfied with the interaction, that is, and they gave you feedback, that is when you now have to duplicate what they've tested, and then do the final design, add it dev mode, and then push to the developers. Did I answer your question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I just saw this your question. You said I would like your advice on the ideal workflow for wireframe. Like create wireframe before starting a project or afterward. Okay. Question number 1. In my Behance portfolio, I often jump straight into visual design and sketch wireframes later. Will you please guide me on when and how to integrate wireframe most effectively? Okay, there is something called design thinking process. It's actually a topic we're going to discuss that, but let me give you a rundown of what design thinking process is all about. Design thinking process stages are empathy, refine, hydrate, prototype, and testing. Now, if you've joined the class or you've been watching the recorded videos, you will see that we want to build a food app, which is actually more like a case study for everybody. And the first thing is they've got to understand their user, which is more falls under the empathy, empathizing with your user, get to know them, know their pain points. Now, the next stage you're going to move is going to be the research part. Define. Now you've know their problem, you're defining this problem for them. Hydrate. Now, wireframe falls under the hydrate process, where you get to say hydrate is like creating a solution for that problem. So what you should do if you're creating a portfolio on Behance, what you should do is, if you've empathized with your user, you've defined their problem for them, wireframe comes in. Now the wireframe comes in, the prototype. Wireframe falls under the prototype, which is like a stages in the design thinking process. It falls under. So your wireframe comes before the projects. So you need to, now from what I've explained here, you need to get the starting point of your design first before doing the final stage. So you don't do the final stage and then you come back and do your wireframe. Wireframe is like, you want to lay a foundation, you just map it out on the floor. If you've gone to a site where they are trying to build a house, you see that, I don't know, I've been there twice. So they normally draw put their rod on the floor, like on the ground. They will now use their tiny rope and then put it straight, and then the room is going to be as wide as this, stuff like that. So that is what wireframe. So your wireframe comes before you start building the project. Imagine somebody that has already laid a building. If your building finish, and then let's say the toilet is bigger than the room, will you break it down and not start doing that? It's like a double work for you. So your wireframe comes before the main project. So that is what it means. I don't know more. That's why I said use your real name so I can be able to know who you are. So that is what it means. So do we have any more questions to ask?